You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffins, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Hey, before we get started, real quick, I wanted to thank everybody for following along. If you're listening to this, would you please go hit that follow button, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. It helps the algorithm and get us in front of more people that want to see shows like this. And again, you are listening to the fastest growing hunting podcast in the United States. With that being said, super excited to welcome Lee Harrison to the podcast. Lee is the owner of Spark Media House. He's got a huge background in the marketing and hunting outdoor space, and excited to talk to him, talk a little bit about, what the current state of the industry is and where we see it going. But before we get into all that fun stuff, Lee, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I grew up in a little town called Rifle, Colorado. I was actually born in Green River, Wyoming, and lived in Rock Springs, Wyoming for a little bit, but basically did all my growing up in Rifle, which has got a cool name. And we have the benefit of being right outside of the White River National Forest, which has, the largest elk herd. I think it's still crowned with the largest overall elk herd in the world.
I'm living in the wrong state, Lee, for hunting elk.
I mean, it's all relative, right? Like, Colorado has great elk numbers. I would say that there's definitely better places to go hunt trophy elk, right? But in terms of opportunity, Colorado offers the best opportunity. Yeah. And I'm probably not the best one to talk about tags and tag allocations and stuff like that. I'm just like, how many points do I have? Where can I go hunt? I do very minimal planning. I'm actually trying to change that this year. That's kind of one of my goals, is to plan my year better. Because I had a horrible season last season, and I just did zero planning and just was like, you know what? I can't kill them from the couch. So that's the mentality I'm going to have. I'm just going to go out there and wing it. This year, it almost zero scouting, did some e-scouting, but I was just really busy throughout the summer and traveling a lot. So just going to get out there. But anyway.
You got littles too now.
Yeah, I got a 3.5-year-old, and that was, he went to daycare over the summer, but it was only like 2 days a week. Because where we live, there's like 2,000 people where I live now in this little town called Battlement Mesa, Colorado, which is like technically not even considered a town. It's like it's like a covenant, right? Like, it's just like a self-governed body, like self-governed city. It's one big HOA is basically how I would describe it. And it's cool. We live right at the base of a mountain battlement, right at the base of the battlements, and really cool place to live. But we got one really small grocery store that gets all the stuff that the grocery stores in Aspen, Glenwood, and Rifle don't want anymore. That's about to expire. So that grocery store picks up that stuff, and that's what our grocery store consists of. So we live in a really small place, and there's just like not really much for childcare. So he hangs out at home with us most of the time, and now he's in preschool, so it's a little bit better. But yeah, I just had zero time to plan, and I just wung it, and my season turned out like I was winging it,
that's the thing, is I think there's a lot of people that are so busy with their lives that love hunting, and they have to kind of wing it. Like, I definitely did like a ton more planning this year, a ton of scouting, and it sounds like I got the same result as you. And I spent a lot of time out on the mountain this year. The one elk that came in to me, I had a doe and a spike tag, and he came in he got within 10 yards of me, and I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
But for every one story where like it works out and you kill the bull at 10 yards with the bull tag, like, right, you know what I'm saying? there's probably 10 or so of those stories where it's like I had a deer tag, but I had a monster bull walk by me, or I had a bull tag, or I had a cow tag and this monster bull walks by me, or the wrong species. So yeah, for every one successful story, there's probably 10 or so of those, I would say.
Makes you just want to beat your head against the wall.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've gone into a whole bunch of that on other podcasts. And like I said, with your background, and what I think a lot of people don't know about me is I have a pretty extensive marketing background myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do. Currently, it's what I've done for most of my professional career. But we're not here to talk about me and what I know. We're here to talk about your expertise, and you've worked with some fun brands, and I'd love to talk about those. I mean, I don't know if you can get into it or not. I can't imagine that they're going to be like, "Hey, don't talk about me on a podcast."
Yeah, but, I mean, and like my background is really crazy because I, like I said, I was living in Rifle growing up, and was hunting and fishing, and then when I got into high school, I just was like all in on football, and was literally spending every waking moment, whether it was like it was either school, 0 hour, film room at lunch, like there was no off time from our high school football program. And it was very understood that like if you didn't spend that time in the off season or at lunch, if you didn't come to film, like you just were not going to play.
Yeah. And what position did you play?
Outside linebacker.
Okay.
And it was just like it was a pretty competitive team for such a small team, and we did really well. It was very much a Friday Night Lights situation where we lost at state to a much bigger school over on the Front Range. But
those buggers.
Yeah, it's like always that. Same thing with like track. I was a really dedicated track athlete as well, and it was like we would always be first or second in state at track, and right behind like us in this private Christian or Catholic school, we're always like right neck and neck, and so it was always that way. We were always battling the private schools. So yeah.
Well, so on that topic, real quick, did you get a chance to watch the national championship between Indiana and Miami?
No, but I watched all the highlights. And right, like the only thing I can say about college football right now is like Notre Dame is getting screwed, for lack of a better term, and that's only because of the highlights that I'm watching. Right, like I don't keep up with football anymore. I'm like so.
Oh, so are you a Notre Dame fan then? I'm taking it.
Yeah, I'm a big Notre Dame fan.
I'll move my mic. I don't know if you can see that thing right there.
Yeah, I see it.
There, in my opinion, there were two teams that got screwed. But I will say this: for as much as people were saying Miami didn't belong, like they did put up a battle. That was I'm kind of like you. Like I didn't watch the game. I had a ton of projects I was doing around the house. But I love YouTube TV. I can go in and hit watch, and it says watch the highlights, and it looked like a banger of a game. I mean, I did watch probably like the last 5 minutes of it.
It was very much like a game of like, underdog situation. I feel like did Miami ever go up? I don't think they ever went up, even early.
They did. I think there was. I know that they had the lead. At least, maybe they didn't. For some reason, I thought. Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention to it, but it was much more. I mean, Indiana. Just watching some of the other games that they played. I mean, when they played, who was it that they played against to get to the championship? Oregon.
Yeah,
dude. I was like, I don't know who's going to beat them. Like, I honestly gave Miami very little chance. I mean, they were in it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was fun. And again, we're not here to talk about that, but
speaking about marketing and stuff like that, Indiana, with their win in the national championship, is actually the first non-Nike sponsored college football team to win the national championship in like a long time, maybe ever. They were sponsored by Adidas. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a huge thing in the sports marketing world right now, is that Adidas is kind of making a really big play at American football and just American sports in general. Whereas like, I think Adidas for a long time is very synonymous with soccer, you know, especially overseas. So it's really cool to see that. And it's interesting, right? It's just, I don't think there's anything more to it other than it's interesting.
Well, and again, from a marketing perspective, I mean, had the league not switched over to these NIL deals, we would not be talking about Indiana winning a national championship.
No.
It took the entire, it leveled the entire playing field for college football.
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous the amount of money that these players are getting. And it's like, you know, like I said, I'm a BYU guy, but you even see, I think I saw a meme. It's like, what are these kids going to be saying when they do their NFL intros? It's like Ryan Uffen, 6'2", 220. And I didn't play at BYU, but it's like BYU, Mississippi State. Are they going to list like all three colleges that they played at? Yeah. The fun thing that I do think that is happening from this, and my ADHD is running rampant, my brain's kind of going all over the place, is you are seeing good athletes stay in the league longer. So I think the level of play has increased, but I just hate that they're bouncing from school to school. Yeah. I think they should put a cap on it, so every school has like a max dollar amount, in my opinion, to make it like super level. And you know, the other thing that I think that they should do is they should make these kids sign like minimum 2-year contract. So it's like, if you're going to come here, we want you for, you know, you can either, you're out is you're going to declare for the NFL.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think they should be at a school for a minimum of 2 years.
And I think we're going to see that. I think, you know, we're going to see the lawyers kind of wise up to the NIL and what's going on with the trade portal and stuff like that. A transfer portal, whatever it's called.
Transfer portal.
Trade. Yeah. But yeah, they're going to wise up to that. And the lawyers are going to start figuring out ways to keep better talent longer. Even if someone throws a lot of money at them. Cause like I've even seen ads for programs saying our state doesn't have any income tax. Come play for us because the money you make from your NIL deal is not going to get taxed like it is wherever else. Right. I think that was, I think I honestly can't remember.
Well, you got Florida, you've got Texas. I think you've got, I think Oregon's one of those.
Yeah. And so it's just like crazy that you're coming out of high school and you can make $4 million in a heartbeat if you're good playing football, which I don't get me wrong, because I came from a really talented program where we put in a lot of work. And I think that work is worth something if you're getting to a certain level. I think that's worth something, but I think it's crazy that like these kids are just getting millions of dollars thrown at them at 18 years old, 19 years old. And now they've all of a sudden hit this like very adult level of operations. And they're still a child. Like me at 19 years old with $4 million would have been a disaster. I would be dead for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you see that, like, I know there's a guy that I went to high school with my brother. But he, had a successful professional career. His daughter, I think, is the number one recruited tennis player. And she's still in high school and he's retired to be her manager. And I'm like, it's bonkers.
That kind of sounds like a good gig. I'm going to tell my son now at 3.5 years old, we got to pick a sport and you are going to be so good at it that I get to retire and be your manager. Cause that sounds like a good gig.
I'm going to do that for my grandkids. Well, I've got 2 granddaughters right now, but yeah, I played baseball. I didn't play in high school. I tore my rotator cuff. my daughter, she has scholarship offers like all across the country to like D1 schools. I mean,
Good for her.
one of the schools that she was talking to, she would have, all of her friends, she got burnt out. I mean, that's the one thing with like picking one sport, which is what she did. I didn't force her to do it. She just loved soccer. But she picked one sport, and it just the coaches, both high school and on the comp team that she played on, they just ruined it for her.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I'm burnt out. And I'm like, well, like that was your college scholarship. I mean, the amount of money that you invest into competitive sports. I mean, she's 26 now and she's got 2 kids, and it's amazing to have them around. But yeah, that wouldn't be a bad gig, man. Get your kids in. And I mean, that's kind of like the way future retirement plans for Americans here, if you've got kids that are athletic and love the sport. But yeah, Sailor would have been playing for a national championship with the girls had she ended up going. BYU. I mean, they were in it against North Carolina and lost. And all right, guys, Bison King is here, and this is the jerky I built because I was sick of weak, low-protein snacks that don't keep up with the way we live. It's 100% American bison, cleaner, leaner, higher in protein than beef. It just hits different. Whether I'm in the mountains, hitting a workout, grinding in the office, or ripping around town, this is my go-to snack. You have 3 flavors to choose from. First is the teriyaki. It's tender, insanely good, and a fast fan favorite. Our peppered is bold, packed with a kick, and comes with 80 grams of protein in each bag. Finally, there's the bison and salt, just 2 ingredients, pure flavor and 90 grams of protein per bag. This is everyday performance food. Throw it in your pack for a hunt, keep it in your truck, grab it after the gym, or take it into work. Bison King is built for people who move, push, train, hustle, and don't slow down. So if you're ready to level up your protein game, rule the wild with Bison King. Visit bisonking.com and use code STEALTH to save 10% on your first order. That's bisonking.com. It's wild, but anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think before we got off on this tangent, just kind of explaining that. So I was really heavy into football. I wasn't hunting in the falls because we were playing. Saturday was like
football season.
Yeah, Saturday was rest day. Sunday was get prepared for the rest of the week because we still had to maintain grades and maintain our physical health. So and then I got into college and I wasn't going to play sports anywhere. Could have ran track, could have played football at some smaller places, but just decided not to do that. And so like that's when I really turned the hunting back on and pretty much right out of college I started working in the hunting industry. And even so in college I was doing some internships in the fishing industry and stuff like that, helping build like websites and brand identities for fishing lodges, and then just got right into it. Loved it. And the rest is history, but it's like a really like weird winding history because I worked at a place called Seek Outside for 2 years, helping grow that brand back in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And then in 2019, 2018, actually, I took a job at a creative agency in Bozeman. And so my wife and I moved up to Bozeman. She got a job, I got a job. So now we're living in Bozeman, and that was kind of like, okay, now I'm in the world that is the hunting industry. Like it's the Mecca was Bozeman at the time. I think it's kind of changing. I think, obviously you still got like Sitka, First Light, Meat Eater, and stuff in Bozeman, but I think it's kind of changing where it's like now we're getting places all over the country that are popping up, like, that are starting camo brands or whatever. But I was in Bozeman working at that creative agency for brands like Cortex, YETI, Kuiu, and Leica. And so we were, having a lot of fun, and
people at the top of the food chain.
Yeah. And like truth be told, while I was there, I was at the bottom of the food chain, right? but it was like every moment I
you
had.
still get insight into what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. When I was in, all the meetings, and every time I could pick my creative director's brain, I was picking his brain, and trying to use my knowledge that I kind of gained growing Seek Outside. I was the marketing guy at Seek Outside for 2 years, and so I was trying to use my knowledge to help, build ambassador programs. This is when like ambassador and not quite affiliate yet, but ambassador. This is when ambassador programs were huge, and we were building ambassador programs for Leica and Schnee's. Schnee's was actually one of my biggest clients at the time. But yeah, so COVID happens. I get laid off because we lost basically hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight in terms of contracts that were cut, and so now we're living in Bozeman, no job, can't afford to do anything. I'm working, kind of doing some side hustle stuff. This is actually when I purchased the name, Spark Media House, and purchased the URL Spark Media House, because I was like, if nothing else, I have this to fall back to. And I ended up going up to Alaska to shoot a sheep hunting film. And that was supposed to be with, like, I was pitching it to the agency at the time that I was working at, like, hey, I've got this opportunity to go do this thing. I think we should, bring Kuiu or someone on board to do this. And obviously that fell through. So now I'm just kind of like funding this sheep hunt myself and just hoping that it works out. And luckily it did. And the outfitter kind of came on board and everything. So that whole thing, snowballed me into working freelance more regularly. And then I got a part-time gig, kind of part-time, full-time, kind of in between, at this place called Muddy Shutter. And, shout out to Andy and Keith Ailes, Andy Tran and Keith Ailes over at Muddy Shutter, because they definitely taught me a lot. I didn't work there for very long, because then soon after I moved back to Colorado, and just had to leave the office there in Bozeman, and was back doing freelance, and still just grinding, getting clients, trying to make things work for them, having some success. And at this time, Seek Outside was kind of slowing growth a little bit, and I was just talking with Kevin, and he was like, hey, come back and let's keep working together. And so I did. And it was a good 2 years at Seek Outside, and then left to go full-time into Spark Media House. Just kind of saw the writing on the wall, knew my purpose at Spark, because at the time when I was working at that big agency, we were working with really big clients, $300,000 a year minimum. Sometimes like we were pushing some big contracts across the table. And so we were just saying no to a lot of these cool mom and pop shops, or maybe just smaller brands that were like, we need help, but we can't afford that. We could afford 80 grand a year, or maybe we could afford 100 grand a year, but it still wasn't enough, right, to cover all the things, people, right, office, all that stuff, profit margin. It wasn't enough to cover that. So we were just saying no to a lot of cool brands, and it just was like bugging me the whole time I was there, because I was like, man, I really wanted to work on that project. That sounded like a really cool project. So that's kind of what Spark Media House was founded on, was, helping smaller and medium-sized companies punch up in terms of their marketing. Like, we don't have $100,000 a year to spend on ads alone, but we have, this much money, and how can we work with them? How can we fit whatever we need to do into their budget? And so we kind of act as like a general contractor, quote unquote, so to speak, like it, not actually, but so we're able to kind of like meet people where they're at in terms of their budget. And obviously the more budget, the more we're able to do, but we're not so beholden to large price tags when it comes to, charging for our services. So yeah, go back to Seek Outside for 2 years, help grow them a little bit more. And I think they're still doing really well, but yeah, left there and I've been doing this now since 2022. So I've been in Spark full time since 2022. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. We've seen some great growth, and growth comes with different growing pains, and every single step we're just trying to help these companies that we're working for. That's really the only goal. It's not like, hey, how can we make profit margin better? Truth be told, I'm not the best businessman. I've definitely been on 4-hour long conference calls with clients and been like, I should really be charging per hour for these conference calls. But if they're working with me and it's a big enough issue, let's get on a conference call and spend the time and work through this thing. So I always kind of joke I should really be a better businessman, but it's not. It's not.
Well, it's hard working with smaller brands. To your point, it's like if somebody comes in. I mean, again, I think you and I've talked about it. My background, I've been in marketing and advertising. I've been selling advertising, but when you get some of these smaller clients, they're like, hey, I'll go sit down and meet with them like, hey, what can I do for $1,000 a month? And I'm like, well, you shouldn't spend it with me. And so then I turn into this marketing advisor. This is what you should be doing. And I'm getting nothing from it.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but it's like you're giving them ideas, and it's like so many people, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? He works with billion-dollar brands, and it has millions and millions of dollars per month to spend. But he's like, I give out some of my best stuff, but for free. But he's like, people just won't go do it.
It's on the execution. It's 100% accurate. Good ideas are sometimes not even worth the paper they're written on because there's no follow through. There's no execution behind them. And that's kind of where we actually pride ourselves is okay, good idea. Now let's go execute that thing. And that's where the rubber meets the road is we don't have the huge budget. We have the idea, and maybe the idea is a big, scary idea. I don't know. There's a lot of big, scary ideas, and to some, those aren't big, scary ideas. To others, they're way too big, scary ideas. So it's
give me an example of one.
I would say right now, what I'm working through is, and I'm actually going to put out a video on my socials about this, but I think right now brands should be trying to do more in-person activations. So right now we're trying to talk to people, or we're working with a client and saying, okay, we know you need to do more in-person activations. You only have so much so much money to work with. How do we go on a pseudo tour, go around to all these different locations, meet your customers where they're at, and the hotbeds of your kind of we look at this heat map of sales and are kind of breaking it up in half of go to the hotbeds, but also go to some of those colder places that we know we should be selling product in. Why aren't we shipping to Georgia? There's a ton of bow hunters in Georgia. Why aren't we shipping stuff to Georgia? So let's work through that. How can we do this, whether it's on the cheap or kind of in the middle? How do we work with that budget to get more in-person activations? And in my perspective, the highest value in-person activation is an owned in-person activation. So it's not going to Western Hunt Expo. Wow, that's a very high quality expo to go to as a brand. It's let's put on our own event. Wait, what is it burgers and brats and bows? Is that the thing?
There's two things that come with some of those big events. One, they can be extremely pricey to get into.
Or impossible to get into. Like they just don't have room.
That was my second thing, is like the Western Hunt Expo. I mean, like they reached out to me last year, and they're, not that we had a booth, but they were like, hey, do you guys want to, we'll give you media passes and you guys can come in and record podcasts. So
Cool.
I'm like, well, do you have a place to set up? And they're like, no. But we just went in, we took our crew in, and we would go around and find businesses that, those can get super busy and they're there to sell.
Yeah.
But we would go in kind of like what we did. Like it's 8 a.m. now. Like we started this call at 7:30 a.m. this morning, but we would be like, hey, we'd go meet people. Like, can we come in tomorrow morning and can we sit down and record a podcast with you?
Yeah.
But to my point, I called them. Well, I started working with them last year. I'm like, hey, because you and I've talked, like, and I've talked about on this podcast, like we launched a bison jerky. So we've got Bison King. And so I reached out to the Western Hunt Expo and I'm like, hey, can we get a booth? And he's like, dude, there's over 1,600 people on the waiting list just to get in.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but it's funny that you say that, because I started to create a post last night that says affiliate marketing is dead, at least how it was. And I'll kind of put a little bow on this, tie it all back in together. But to your point, these like sponsorship and events, 3 weeks ago, my son, who's started, this bison jerky with me, he was driving into work and he was listening to the radio and he's like, I live in Centerville, Utah. And he's like, did you know that there's a gun show in Farmington Saturday and Sunday? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, why didn't we go to that? And I'm like, well, who is it? And so he told me who it was. I looked him up and I just drove over because they were there setting up that day for the weekend. And I was like, do you guys by chance have like an extra table? I mean, it was like super last minute. I mean, this was Friday. So we scrambled, ran over to Alpha Graphics. They were like, yeah, we can get you in. And the amount to get into the event was like, it was $130 for a table. And I'm like, well, like what do we have to lose?
Yeah.
And so we go in there and like we sold so much jerky.
Heck yeah.
Like I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then there was another one put on by a different company the following weekend. And I'm like, well, let's call them. And the same thing. They're like $140 for a table. So we go up there and we double ourselves. Nice. And we sold so much jerky that I'm ordering like thousands of more. I just ordered like over 1,000 more bags of jerky.
Nice.
And I'm doing one this weekend. And so it's those little things. But to your point, I don't have a location. I mean, I'm running this out at like, you can't see it, but over here is my shipping station. I've got a shelf built up with bins with the jerky that's left. And it's bonkers the amount of sales. But the fun thing is we went to that show in Farmington, completely different show. Funny enough, though, it was almost the identical vendors were up at that other show up in Ogden.
Yeah.
And we had 8 people that had bought like one bag in Farmington. And they were like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I need to get more of this. So they came up and bought like 3 more bags. One family brought back like 5 family members, and we sold like 15 bags to just like one family because they had brought more of their family up. They're like, we've been telling them about them, and when we saw you guys were here, we called them. And so it's like building that brand loyalty, like that activation. And the other thing too is like it's not just like we're not just selling the jerky and taking the cash. We're signing them up. We have a Shopify store. I'm like, you can order online. We have not developed because we just launched it like 6 weeks ago, and shame on us. We haven't built like a good email campaign, with all the flows to get back out. But they're like, oh yeah, you can order online. But when we sign them up, we check them out through Shopify. And so I pull up the Shopify app, we go to checkout, I hand them the phone and have them enter their information. First name, last name, cell phone, email address. They give me the phone back, process, and they tap to pay.
Yep.
And it's like now they're in the system, and once we get our email flows worked out, which is one of the projects that I'm working on tomorrow, it's like we are just seeing our sales, and that's the thing, is the sales that we've done online, we're seeing more and more. And one, it's like if you have a good product, people love it. Like people like, I didn't know bison jerky was this good. It's got, again, I'm turning this into a pitch now for bison jerky, but it's like bison it's more nutrient dense than beef. I feel like it tastes better. My wife won't eat beef jerky at all. She hates it. But she loves this stuff. So it's like, we've got a good product. And it's just, it's fun to see the business growth, but a lot of it comes from just being out in person, and you're able to talk, share the story, how we developed it. They have questions. Where do you guys get your bison from? Like, how do you process it? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's a good example of like, while it's not like an owned event, you don't own that event. Someone else is putting it on. You bought a table. You're owning part of the process by collecting information. And no one buys something online unless they have a truly incredible experience from first click onto the website to receiving the product, unboxing the product, opening it. Unless they have a truly incredible experience, they are not doing that. They're not bringing their family members to the computer and saying, look at this product. That almost only happens through an in-person, we call it activation, but through an in-person event, right? Through actually meeting people and shaking hands and swapping stories, and you selling your story of Bison King and why the product is better, or why you started the brand. That only happens through in-person stuff, and I think it's great. Like, don't be afraid to plug Bison King or whatever on this. Like, that's a good workshop example. And if people are like, oh, this guy talking about in-person events, like, no way. And then it's a great example of why it works, and why I think it's moving forward a better way to reach new customers, because it's such a high value touch point in comparison to, like, Facebook ads or something like that, where they're just like, oh, cool photo, or maybe they're interested and they're like, oh, cool photo, go check out the site, cool product. Hopefully your site gets your story across. Hopefully your site gets your product information across good enough, but it'll never get it across like you shaking their hand and saying, look at this thing. Or an employee, and a really impassioned employee.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing too with the marketing space and just what I've seen on social is people like brands, or they'll like a product, but if they can get to see the individual behind it and get to know them, like, that's what's more endearing. That's what I feel like expedites the process to brand loyalty.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's the brand, but it's also like the person behind it. Like, oh, I got to, not that I'm like I'm nobody, but like I met the guy that started this, and it's everything you described. Like, they were able to convey the message, why, like the vision behind it, what we want it to become. And it's fun to have those conversations and develop that relationship. And it's easier to develop a relationship in person than it is through social.
Yeah.
Or website 100%. Or email.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but then you capture that stuff, you capture that information, and you're able to send them emails, and now you do have those digital touch points, which are valuable.
100%.
But there's just levels to the value, right? There's, like, I don't know, just like anything else, there's levels to human interaction. Not in, throwing up a hand wave is not as a high value interaction as like you having a conversation with someone about a topic that you're both passionate about.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a great example. And it truly is, I think, where especially the outdoor space is going, because I think in this world of digital interaction and social interaction, or like social media interaction specifically, while those things are great and they do kind of connect us through different ways, like found you on Instagram. That's how I learned about the podcast and everything else. So like, great, I learned about something I enjoy and I like through social, but it's still not as valuable. That like and or comment or whatever, even a DM is not as valuable as something like this. And so for people in the outdoor industry, talking about consumers in the outdoor industry like category,
Sure.
they're looking for that connection with people who they are people who match their values, people who match their passions. And so yeah, that they're just searching for that now, especially after, I mean, it's been like almost 6 years since COVID or whatever, maybe not quite, like 5 years.
It's been 6 years.
Yeah,
6 years next month.
Yeah. So
well,
yeah, if you think about like the end of COVID being I don't even know when. So it's been a little bit. But we've still never got to that level of pre-COVID social interaction. However, there's some cool things going on. Like I saw some things over in Denver where it's like, you pay for this. I'm pretty sure you pay for this. I haven't confirmed this or not, but you pay to go to this thing, this room, this big event space. Everyone has to put their phones in like a lockbox or something, and you just like hang out. People just read books or, I don't know, eat food together. Like you just hang out. Like that's it. But you pay for that. And people are paying to go do that thing.
To go have face-to-face interactions.
Yeah. Without phones, it's insane to me. And there might be free ones. There might be like paid ones because maybe the facilities offer something cool or whatever. But like, that's just insane to me, where it's like, why don't we, I'm bad at this, dude, because truth be told, the last 3 weeks I've been locked in my office grinding on work. And my wife finally told me the other day, she was like, you got to get out, you gotta go do something fun, like find some buddies. And I'm like, babe, none of my buddies live here. Like I have no friends here. Like they're all like in different places across the US. And she's like, you gotta get back into some, like, go shoot your bow at a league, or like in the summers I do a men's lacrosse league. And she's like, you gotta find something,
do something.
Yeah, because she's like, I can tell that you're going stir crazy. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like I can't sit in this office another week and just work from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. on some days. Like, it's just it's been a grind. But yeah, she's like, go and interact with some people. So that's going to be my homework for the next 2 months, is interacting with more people. I'll be at the Western Hunt Expo, so it'll be good to have that here in a little bit.
So tying all this back together, and since you mentioned the Western Hunt Expo, we will be there. And one of the ways that we were able to get a booth there is Black Flag.
Yeah.
So Black Flag, they were the guys that had originally started Mountain Ops, and I've gotten to be really close and work with them. I knew them before I started the podcast, before I started BSN KNG, but like when they were able to sample the product, they were like, once we finally rolled it out and we took the packaging up and showed them, and they're like, dude, like you guys nailed this. And Casey was like, how fast could you guys have another flavor? And I'm like, well, I have one. And it was one that I wanted to launch initially, but we were like, let's just start with 3. And so I felt like things just aligned, that we were able to hold it back. And so we had this flavor ready, and they're like, so if we do a collab on a flavor, we can share booth space with you. So my packages were delivered yesterday.
Heck yeah.
We're taking them down to get them done, but we're going to have them done in time so that we can, they have a huge booth. And then I was telling him about these little gun shows that we went to, and he was like, you're kidding me. Like, you're doing that much in cells? And I was like, yeah. So I called the guy up at the Ogden one, and because this guy had 3 tables. I met him out in person. He came by the booth, and he was like, well, He goes, I have 3 tables and I really only need one. So if you want one, come up. So then after I shared with those guys the sales that we had done, they were like, can you get us a table? And I'm like, well, let me call him. So I called Chris, and he opened up a gun, ammo, and prep store, brand new store in Ogden. And he was like, yeah, they can have it. And so he sold that one to them. They came up and they're like, dude, you found like a little like gold mine. Like we both did really, really well. And so anyway, so they've been doing it, but now Casey's like, we had like this little wing on there with their booth, and he's like, we may want to look at expanding, because making your presence there a little bit bigger, because he's like, the Honda Expo could be huge for you. But again, it just comes from having those like interactions and helping each other out. And Black Flag does not need my help. They're really good at what they're doing, but it's fun to be able to go set up shop next to those guys and see how they do things. And we just like, we're learning from them. They're learning a little bit from us just about these little events. Cause they go and do like every single TAC event, and they're like, our return is like 10x on from just the one little gun show that they came to versus what they end up spending to travel across the country to go set up these booths. And they pay for their airfare and they have to ship everything, and anyway, it's fun to see. So we will be at the Hunt Expo, so we'll definitely would love to meet you in person there. But getting back into kind of like the current state, like what other trends are you seeing brands have success with, in developing and growing their audience and ultimately converting sales?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest one is still like social media is still a huge factor, right? But social is changing pretty much every 6 months. There's like some sort of new when I'm talking about trend, I don't mean like dance trend or whatever, TikTok dance trend. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to like a kind of outweighted value that you can find on social. So like last year it was reels. Like if you weren't making reels, you were not doing well on social. Or some sort of short form video, you weren't doing well on social. Now carousels are actually outperforming reels on almost every level for almost every brand. And like, to make it easy, I've just told my brands literally never post a single image anymore. Like if you're posting a single image, you might as well save up those 10 posts that you would have made and turn it into one carousel. It does that much better than 10 posts, 10 single image posts. And I'm like, and then even like, so let's say you make a reel and it's got some sort of B-roll in the reel, rip that B-roll out. Rip that B-roll out and place it into those carousels. So like, let's say that there's a B-roll of a guy like drawing back his bow or whatever. Put that little square 1080 by 1080 video in the carousel. So it's like photo, video, photo, video, photo, video as you're like scrolling through the carousel. And just systematize it. Don't try to overthink it and come up with some new thing every single time you make a post. Just make it a system. Okay, we're going to do a reel, and then the next day we're going to do a carousel, and then we're going to do a reel, then we're going to do a carousel. And some of those carousels are going to have the same B-roll from the previous reel. Not everyone is going to see it twice. Like you're going to reach some different people every time. So social is still very much here to stay, right? Like I just got done saying like social media interaction is not as valuable as in person, but there's still value to it, right? Like it's just levels. But the in-person activation is just a higher value. So how do we do that? How do we do more of that? And like you said, you went and found these places locally for $130 a booth, for a table, and you spent some gas money down there. You spent your time, but in terms of that $130, let's call it $250. Like you probably still made way more than what you spent to do that whole that whole little event in Farmington and Ogden, and you made way more. I mean, I don't know exactly what your return was, but now if like think if you could have a little bit more ownership of the events and figure out ways to tie those events. I know we're back into events, but I'm so bullish on the events thing right now. So I'm just kind of running on it again, but like figure out ways to tie them into other things like a bow shop, for example, or like how
We
to.
did that too just before Christmas.
Yep.
And the bow shops are kind of dead just before Christmas, but we Wild Arrow here, local bow shop. I know those guys really well. They're like, heck yeah, come down. And so we went down and did that. And they're like, hey,
They're
and
dying
we
for
want to put
people to
some
come
bags
by.
in our store. We went down there. I mean, it was all, again, kind of like last minute we threw it together. So there wasn't a lot of promotion on it.
Yep.
But we had 8 people come in and we sold 30 bags.
Yeah.
I mean, to 8 people. So it's
Yeah.
like, and look, bison is not cheap. And so it's not like I have like a low price point, but it's doing those events. I think if you can do your own events or collabs, I feel like collabs on.
Yeah, let's call them collabs, because I think owned events, you have to be at a very different level and have your distribution of the information around the event has to be really wide. So if you don't have a huge social following, your distribution around the information on that event is going to be minimal. So if you can do
Minimal,
a collab
yeah.
like what you do with Wild Arrow, and like Wild Arrow's like, hell yeah, bring people to our store because they might pick up something in our store, and then it's actually an added value for you because now you get to have potentially conversations on reselling. Like, hey, we do offer, hey, bow shop. Let's just say, for example, we're I don't know, a boot company. Just to like give a little bit different example. Let's say we're a boot company and we're like, going to all these different bow shops. Like, hey, we also offer we have a wholesale and retailer pricing structure, and here's what that looks like. Or maybe you're going to allow them to put it on. Oh gosh, I don't know why this term is escaping me, but whatever. They have the product there for free. If it sells, they get the money. Please help me.
Consignment.
Consignment. Thank you. I almost said commission, but I knew that wasn't it. Maybe you even allow a couple of places to put it on consignment if you got a big enough product, that's just kind of sitting around. And so now you're even dipping your toes a little bit into reselling and retail and wholesale and all that sort of stuff. So there's like value that you can pull out of these little events in almost every direction.
Right.
But I do want to go back to the social thing. There's never been a better time to reach a ton of people on social right now. And like I said, it's a little bit lower value than the in-person stuff, but the scale is much, much larger. Whereas like you're going deep on the in-person events, now you're going really wide on social, and you can start to do, start to build those audiences. And in my opinion, you should be doing both. Like there's no reason why we can't think creatively and try to do both. A lot of people just figure, well, I got to pay so much money to make that happen. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can find the wild arrows around you, or, maybe there's a farmer's market around you that's just like, come on by for free. Like, we don't, like, this is just like a community thing put on by the city or whatever. Like, we don't charge anyone to come in. And so like go find those things and go do those things and go tell people about your product. And then like inversely from the in-person thing, go tell people about your product online. Do both.
So yeah, I think just to like workshop this a little bit here, and I mean, I'm just doing this off the top of my head just because it's thoughts that I've had around Bison King. I mean, one, jerky in the hunting industry is a natural tie-in.
Yeah,
someone can throw it in their pack. They're out hunting, like it's great. Like they go to the, but we started thinking like, okay, what other type of events could we do? So just brainstorming. It's like, one, we've been focused on the hunting space. It's like, okay, outdoors, hikers, right? There's different type. You don't, depending on what your product is, like you can go down different veins. You can go to the gym because our product is clean, right? And people care and they want protein.
Yep.
So you could go do a pop-up at a gym, right?
Yes.
And
Which you should absolutely do.
right.
Yep.
And we've done that.
Oh, you have? Okay,
And
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was, I will be honest, like we did well, and they were like, they didn't charge us anything. They're like, yeah, you're welcome. Come set up a table. The problem I found in that space is people are coming to the gym. They're like, I don't want to be bothered. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm coming here. I've got my headphones on before I even walk through the door, and I want to go and get my workout. But on the way out, people were kind of like, okay, well, now I'm a little bit hungry, and they started asking questions, and we did well. We did just as well as we did down at Wild Arrow, but it was also like a random day during the week just before, our idea was like, hey, stocking stuffer for dad, right? Like that's how we were pitching it. But you have to kind of think different ways. But, like I said, like outdoor space, backpack, hiking. I mean, we're looking to get into rodeos. There's so many different like veins from the events you can do. And then, even to add on to that, like, you and I, this isn't the first conversation we've had. We've talked a couple times, and there was that meme. We had talked about like Game of Thrones, right? Where like the guy standing there and like
I'm still gonna make that video, by the way, with that meme in it. I definitely am gonna steal it. Just haven't had the time to record that video yet.
Dude, it will be fun. I'd love to see it. But it's all those different touch points. It's the social, it's the events, it's the email marketing, it's having a website that converts, it's doing collabs, it's doing direct mail. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And at the end of the day, I just think brands need to test different things to find out what works. And there's, like I said, pop-ups, like you said, I think most businesses, like they're not going to charge you to go do a pop-up. If it's like if it's a tie-in, if you can find some correlation and you can bring some value by planning and promoting the event, and you can bring foot traffic to their stores. I haven't had anybody that I've reached out to be like, no, we don't want to do that with you. They're like, yeah, sweet, let's do it. Because I think everybody's hungry for foot traffic. And you bring people in to buy jerky, the same thing we talked about, like the events in person for us. They come in, they buy the jerky, they start looking at the other stuff in the store, and they're able to have that one-to-one interaction, which it might not convert to a sell right then, but it will plant a seed like, hey, when I'm ready, I'm going to come back to this company because I like them. Yep,
exactly. And it's just another level of brand building that you're able to execute on. And I just think so many people are looking for the magic bullet, the silver bullet, and they're like, what's the one thing, there is no one thing. Now, some things, like I said, have higher value attributed to them than others. Like in-person events have a higher touch point value than Instagram like. It's just true. Like Instagram likes are fleeting and they almost mean nothing anymore. Like if something gets a lot of likes or a few likes, don't even look at that. Like who cares anymore? But it's like there's different levels to the value that certain touch points bring. And I think companies just have a hard time figuring out how to stack all those wins in their favor. Or just like stack all those wins in general. Like how do we start doing email and SMS and organic social on top of paid social? Because it's super easy to start a store, start paid social, you start getting sales. And I say it's super easy. Sometimes it can be difficult, especially if you have a really high price point product, a premium product on social, on paid social. But stick with me here. It's super easy to just do that and be like, cool, we have a brand now. We're making sales and everything's good. But then you start to look at your lifetime value and you're like, oh, people are only purchasing from us once. And we have 2 products in our product lineup. And we have to go find new people to buy our stuff every single time. So some of that is actually product development, but a lot of that can be, well, do they need to buy the second product that you offer? Do they need to buy the product again? Like in your case with the jerky. Yeah, they buy one, let's call it $8 bag of jerky. Are they becoming a $16 customer? Are they becoming a $100 customer? Like, is their lifetime value $100 or is it just $8? And now you're struggling to just find new people and you're just churning through new customers. So how do you stack all those wins like email and SMS, which is a huge retention marketing tactic, to turn people into lifetime customers instead of just one-time customers. So it's really the whole entire marketing mix that we need to be looking at. And while they aren't all realistic from the onset, like you can't be doing everything all by yourself all at once. But we can be doing a few of them really well at the same time, right? And which ones are we going to pick? Which ones are we going to choose? And my answer to that would be you need to be doing email, social, and in-person events. Like that would be the first 3 I'd talk about.
I agree 100%. And I mean, the social side is until you start trying to do it, it's like, well, I'll just we can open up a store and we're going to start posting on social. It's hard. It's hard to come up with content and have fresh ideas and different things. But to your point, I think if like I don't think I've ever done a carousel on Instagram for hunt stealth. So, I have like the way that I post the stuff. And so now I'm going like, all right, well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to start doing the posts and I'll do the cover art that we've dropped a new episode. We'll drop the reel, but I'm also going to include like, a little piece of that B-roll from the interview into that. But, also to your to your point, like, you have to be doing everything. There is a reason that I started asking people at the start of the podcast to go hit follow or subscribe. And I've only been doing that for a month, but my follows and subscribe have skyrocketed. Yep. And simultaneously, when we drop new episodes, they get notifications that a new podcast is out and our downloads have spiked.
Yeah.
And so to your point, you just have to, you just have to find different things and then not be afraid to ask, because like the worst thing is if someone says, pound salt, I'm not going to follow you. Yeah. I'm only listening to this because my buddy was on the podcast. Great. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
I hope you enjoyed the episode, and then you move on and, hopefully, I think a lot of times someone might hear that and they're like, well, you're just trying to grow for your own gain. Right. Like, but I think when people peel back the curtain a little bit and they realize how much value you're trying to add to people's lives through this podcast or through, their hunting endeavors, how much value I'm trying to add to my clients' lives and their businesses. Like, I'm really not just here to make money. In fact, like I have done a lot of the things I have in spite of trying to make money, like I said, I could be a better businessman and I would probably be making more money than I am right now, but I just can't bring myself to lower the ethos down from helping the small and medium-sized businesses punch up and add value to them, And so like, I hope when people hear that, they're not like, oh, well, he's just trying to make money. No, some of us are truly out here to add value. But then again, it's like, I hope that you like me enough. I hope that they like you enough that if you're like, hey, it really helps me if you follow or subscribe, or it really helps me if you come to the event or whatever. And we're trying to do this thing and I want you to be a part of it. I want you to, feel like you're a part of this thing growing. And, hopefully people are that invested, and because we're that invested, so that's, I always try to make sense of that, because sometimes people look at it differently,
Well, look, to your point, if you're bringing value to a business, I mean, you should be compensated for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people that work in the marketing and advertising space, regardless of the industry, like you shouldn't feel bad about wanting to be profitable, because if you're not,
Yeah.
like, it's not
You're dead in the
sustainable
water
long
anyways.
term. Like, you can't help anybody else because you have to go get another full-time job or a part-time job, and it just pulls away from what you're doing. And I mean, this is doing this podcast, and I have a full-time job. Like, I have a full-time job. Like, I'm doing these things on the side. The end game is I hope that I can make it like my full-time thing. And, starting
And
this
add more
podcast,
value.
it was for me to learn from people. Like, I started it selfishly for me to learn. I've talked about this. Like, I worked at iHeartMedia. One of the big things that I sold was Meat Eater. Well, the Meat Eater podcast was sold out, and then the minimum investment was $50,000 a month. And a lot of, these smaller businesses that we talked about in the outdoor space, like, they can't afford $50,000 a month for 3 months. With a 3-month minimum commitment, you're talking $150,000. The other thing that I was facing with that, take the money aside, because there were businesses that were like, oh, okay, like, let's explore this. And then Steve Ranella is like, yeah, sorry, I can't work with them. Like, there was no other clothing industry that he was going to do an endorsement for, because they owned First Light.
Yeah.
And he had so many other brands that he'd been working with forever that he's just like, yeah, not interested. And that was kind of like the ethos of what brought this. They're like, well, why don't you start a podcast? I'm like, I don't know I'm not a hunt. Like, I just started hunting.
Yeah.
I haven't even killed anything. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And they're like, do your podcast around that. And so rather than me going out, talk about how great of a hunter I am, because I'm a horrible hunter.
Yeah.
I get to bring people on that are good and have good advice and tips, and it's made me better. And I had way more opportunities this year than I've had the previous years.
Yeah. And there you go. Like, it was just all around what you were passionate about. And you were like, I'm going to try to add value to my life through this information. And hopefully it adds value to everyone else's life too. And I think, the best things are started that way. The best things are started out of just pure, like, just wanting to add value.
Well, and the thing that really brought this is just kind of how we had talked at the start of this. Your wife was like, you need to get out and see people. Well, the whole thing that got me into hunting is, like, my kids had graduated. I wasn't coaching sports anymore. They were adults moving on. And my wife was like, you need to find something to do.
Yeah. She's like, get out of the house.
Yeah, she's like, you need to go find something to do that will, bring you some joy and happiness. And I picked up a bow and fell in love with it. And it's just things kind of spiraled into what it is now. And I mean, I'm not making any money off this podcast, because I told the businesses, I'm like, well, I'm going to start it, but you're going to need to give me a couple years to try and build my following. Because if I start, I mean, there are people that I plug stuff for, just because, like, relationships, but I'm like, I'm not going to don't expect a bunch of sales from it. Like, we'll do stuff to what we talked about earlier, to give you additional touch points, so people are familiar with your brand, but don't expect, like, I'm not going to charge you for anything, because I'm not going to make it. And surprisingly, we do have affiliate codes set up. People will use Stealth at checkout with some different brands that we've worked with, like Muley Maniacs, like their tripods. We did some stuff with Blue Coolers, like, and I've talked to these guys, and they're like, yeah, dude, we've actually had like thousands of dollars in sales. And I'm like, sweet. And they're like, well, here, let me hook you up with some product. So they're like, like, I get some freebies, which is super awesome. And I love them. But I was doing it just because, like, I want to help them.
Yeah.
And, and it's something that I like talking. Sometimes I talk too much. I feel like I've talked over you way too much in this interview.
That's okay, because I think a lot of it's like workshopping things for, like, BSN KNG and stuff like that. I think it really does help paint the picture and give a good example. So, dude, don't worry. And I I'm learning stuff too, you know, like now I'm going to start looking at gun shows in Farmington and Ogden. So, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think I think it's all just like how do we show up to add value for ourselves and our friends and our community. Um, but yeah, like to my point, it's like I hope no one hears us talking about like we're trying to sell stuff and we're trying to, you know, our retention. We're trying to increase our retention marketing. I hope no one hears that and they're like, oh, they're just trying to make a bunch of money. And it's like, yes and no. Like we have some things that we're passionate about, and to make them live long, healthy lives, we need those things to make money.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't view it that way.
Yeah,
I
I know
view
you
it as,
don't.
I mean, I know that there are people out there that either have businesses that they've started and they're trying to figure out, and so the hope is, Lee, that you and I are bringing them some value that they can take and put into practice,
Right.
and that they can start seeing that same success. And I guarantee you, there's people that are out there that are listening to this right now that have an idea and they're like, I'm going to do it. And if you're listening to this and you have a business or you're going to start a business, like hit me up in the DM, hit Lee up in the DM. You know, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about your experience. It's not like, I'm not one of these podcasts that it's like, oh, you know what? Like you have to be like the creme de la creme to come on here. We have hunters on that don't even have social media.
Not true.
Well, no. Well, I think what you offer brings a ton of value, and I would encourage people, and we'll make sure to put like in the show notes at the end. I'll put links to your website, and we'll link to your Instagram and your different socials. And I hope if there's a business out there that has a budget, that they reach out to you and they're like, Lee, here's what I have. What can you help me with?
Yep.
And I hope they reach out to me and they're like, hey, I would love to come on your podcast and talk about what I'm trying to do, because it's just, it's not, to me anyway, it's not a matter of like, hey, we're trying to make money. Like I'm legitimately trying to bring value to somebody out there that's listening that has an idea or has a product that they've already launched. And they're like, I want to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, so hey, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you know, like another thing that I was just thinking about while we were chatting about this, that's like super high value in comparison to other things is actually like CTV right now. Now you have to have a little bit higher budget for this. So here's like, you know, organic social is a very low budget option. In-person events is probably like a mid-budget option, and CTV is like a different one. But like it is becoming increasingly easy to advertise on TV nowadays. Like you can literally just sign up for an account on one of these platforms and start running ads with Facebook-like budgets, $500 a day, $1,000 a day or whatever. And that might sound like a lot, but like if you have that budget, like CTV is actually becoming a really easy way to get in front of people in a different format than they're used to seeing, right? So instead of them seeing Tide or whatever the heck while they're watching Hulu, you know, they're seeing your brand. And if you have a brand that, even if you don't ship online, like let's say you're only in stores, that's a good way to get in front of people and get some good brand lift is because it's so different, right? Like everyone's used to scrolling on their phones and they get 1,000,001 ads in an hour, but they're not used to seeing their favorite hunting brand or their favorite local construction company even advertising on TV. And now it's like becoming so easy to do that. And, you know, we were just talking about doing all the things. Well, here's another thing for you to look at. And if you have the budget, even $500 a day, let's say you have a promo and it's only a week long, that $500 a day might be enough to really drive a bunch of sales. And so it doesn't have to be crazy.
And here's the other thing that I think people don't understand about CTV is you can get super targeted. So like if you are a construction company that is in one place, you can target that.
Yep.
You can target households, you can target behaviors, you can target interests. So you are casting a wider net, but you can also, very similar to the way you do paid campaigns on social to target a specific audience, you can do the same thing with CTV, and there's huge value in that.
Yeah, there's huge value in that. And right now, CTV is actually the only method in advertising where I would say super targeted ads work. Meta and Google, they want you to use their Advantage Plus and Performance Max campaigns that kind of just say, hey, here's some broad targeting. We are going to figure out who needs to see these ads based off of our AI and machine learning. Like, you don't have to touch anything. So it's like target the whole US, target men and women, target 18 to 65 plus. But on CTV, it actually works in your favor to target like the old days of Meta or Facebook. Actually, I would say if you're at all familiar with that. And by the way, CTV stands for connected TV. Think of like Hulu, Paramount Plus, those things.
Prime Video,
Prime, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus,
YouTube TV,
ESPN Plus. Yeah, so it's like
HBO, all of them.
Yeah. So what we use is Mountain. We use the platform called Mountain, MNTN, not MTN, but MNTN. You could just go on there, start a campaign, maybe even less than $500 a day, but we've been seeing pretty much like $500 is like where you want to be at starting. $500 a day, or around there, roughly, 450, 550. So you can go on there and be like, hey, I want to target people who are watching, I don't know, what's a hot new show. I've been locked in my office for the last 3 weeks. So whatever the hottest new show is, that's kind of like, let's say Yellowstone comes out with another freaking spinoff, right? Yellowstone comes out with another spinoff. Landman's a hot one. That's right, my in-laws are watching that like crazy right now. So let's say we know that a lot of our consumers are watching Landman. Let's go advertise on commercial air time on Landman. And I'm pretty sure even if you pay for subscriptions nowadays, you're still getting fed ads somehow. I don't know if there's any straight up ad free.
There is.
I don't know. But
I used to sell a whole bunch of this stuff. There are like, you can go ad free, but what the research that I was familiar with, at least as of 6 months ago, which is the last time I'd really like dug into this, I think it's less than 10% of all subscribers are opting out of ads. So, I mean, the majority of the people that have these paid subscriptions are having ads delivered to them.
See, I didn't even know that. No one told me that. No one from Mountain told me that, and that's like in their favor. That's in the platform's favor, because it's like, hey, you should be advertising with us, because 90% of the people who use these platforms are still getting ads, even if they're a paid subscriber.
Like, so, I think even Prime Video, it's under 4% of people are opting out of ads. So, I mean, it's
probably hidden, like that toggle, whatever you have to press, is probably hidden. If I know Amazon.
When you sign up for a subscription, it's like, hey, do you want to pay? I mean, that's the other thing too, is that all these subscriptions, it's like you have
extra paywall.
Yeah, there's like the extra paywall. It's like, I'm going to save myself $5. I don't want to pay the extra $5 to not have ads, right? So
that's just like another way that you can think creatively. Okay, I'm this construction company. I know that a lot of the people who are needing my service are watching Landmen, or I'm an outdoor brand. I make whatever gear. I make firearms. I don't know if you can advertise firearms on Mountain. Actually, we haven't tried it yet. Pretty sure you can't. But
that's a tough one.
Let's say
they get
you do
super
something
restricted.
Other than firearms. Let's say you make clothing, right? And you're like, people who want my clothing are watching Landmen mostly. And guess what? If you want to find that information, go ask people. Go set up a survey in Google Sheets. It's completely free. Send an email. Hopefully you're capturing emails. Send an email out to, and let's say you're on Shopify, which if you're not on Shopify, you should be on Shopify. Go and find your top 10% of consumers you could do it a couple different ways, in order of lifetime value or in order of repurchases. So like maybe your lifetime value isn't super high, but people are repurchasing 10 times, do it and use that metric. But find the top 10% of people, send them an email saying, hey, what do you do in your free time? Are you mostly using Instagram? Are you mostly using LinkedIn? Give them social accounts or give them options. Like what socials are you using the most? What shows are you watching the most? Do you stream movies, or do you basically stream no TV shows? Like, how do you do that? What other activities do you do outside of bow hunting? Let's say you're a bow hunting brand. And like, send a survey, ask that information, gather the data, and then make informed decisions based off the data. Don't weaponize the data to make it say what you want it to say, but look at the data, understand what it's actually telling you. Oh yeah, so a lot of people are watching Hulu. A lot of the people on their free time watch Hulu for 2 hours every night, and they say that their favorite show is Landmen or whatever. Maybe we should advertise on Landmen, because that other people like our top customers are going to be watching this show. And it might be different for you. Like, it might not be Hulu, it might not be connected TV, but it might be something different. But finding that information and then using that information to win really is that's where the secret sauce lies, is collecting data, understanding data, and utilizing it to help grow your business and help more of your customers.
Yeah, it's an interesting time that we live in, and like you said, I mean, every 6 months social's changing. I mean, everything's changing. I mean, the other thing, and we don't need to go down a rabbit hole, that, I mean, I've been in the radio industry for 2017. So I was running KSL.com, the classified section. I had an inside sales team. We work with, I mean, super SMBs. I'm talking like their budgets were like a couple $100 a month. I took that from when I started managing that, we were doing 80,000 a month. I did that for almost 8 years. And when I left, we were up to about 2.5 million a month in revenue. I don't know what they're at now. I haven't been doing it since 2017. Then I moved down to the radio side. But radio is another platform that I think is highly underrated. Now, I will preface this by saying the music platforms are not the radio to go to, but depending on what your brand is, like if you can get on talk radio, whether it's news talk or like sports talk. Mm-hmm. I mean, like we started off the conversation, you were super passionate about Notre Dame getting hosed, right? Like there are people out there that listen to that and on a local level. So if you're a local company, you could go on to a local sports talk station, and I have clients that I work with on the side that we're doing sports talk that they're spending a minimal amount to go and it's not just running commercials for me. It's doing like the remotes or in studio where you're on air and you're talking about your product and you're engaging, and you have like a 2 to 5 minute segment where you're talking about your business, and the DJs who have that built-in trust, like if they've used the product, they vouch for it. It's another way of doing that in-person type activation, to where if somebody vouches for it, they're like, all right, well, like I'll check it out and plant seeds. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, the opportunities are countless. It just really what it boils down to is what budget do you have, and testing different things. So like you said, it's someone to be like, well, I can't do, you're telling brands that you're working with, like, hey, save up your posts so that you can do a carousel. it may be, hey, if you try something and it works, you may need to save up your budget for 2 or 3 months so that you can do something that has a higher conversion rate for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, you know, a lot of brands just, or, you know, founders specifically, myself included, like I want everything for Spark to happen right now, you know, but I tell my clients this, and I try to take some of my own advice, is like, it takes time. We have to, you might have a new product, you might have a new service in the area, and without a ton of money, and, you know, some people go out and they get VC money or they get private equity or whatever, and now they have a bunch of cash to play with and they can play with it. But like, not everyone does that, and they try to bootstrap it, us included. And, you know, so it's just really about finding what's working for you, testing things. And then if you don't have the budget, like I said, on, like, let's take CTV, like let's take that example again. Let's say you don't have $500 a day. Well, if Meta isn't really working for you, but you tested CTV and you saw some good early signal, maybe pull back spend on Meta a little bit instead of trying to spin your wheels there. Let's pull back spend a little bit on Meta, and let's try to think of some sort of marketing moment to launch another CTV campaign around. Maybe it's the first that we did this for a brand, the 365th day that your company has been in business. You know, that is a marketing moment. You have made it to 365 days, which is, you know, pretty great. That's awesome that you've made it to there without losing your mind or, you know, having to close your doors, because there's been some businesses who've closed their doors in like 30 days. Even that started with like millions of dollars. I wish I could remember the example that I just talked to someone about last night. But so let's say you got this, you know, or let's say it's 10 years just for, you know, just for the sake of it. It's going to be your 10th year in business. You're pulling back some spend on Meta. You're saving that money up, and you're going to launch the CTV campaign. Well, now you have extra money to go shoot some really cool piece, because it's got to have some video component to it, right? You're going to shoot this really cool piece about the type of value that you give to your customers, and thank you for 10 years of business or whatever. And you're going to launch that on CTV. And now you have a little bit more money to spend on CTV than you had in your previous kind of like testing phase. And, you know, that should work for you if you saw some good early signal and you have the information. Again, you have the data and the information backing what you're doing in terms of targeting and all that sort of stuff. And the same applies for any other thing, the CTV events, paid social, like, get some data, go and understand what that data is saying, and then go and do what that data is telling you to do. And so for events, the way to test that is just go to small events. Go spend $130 on a table. Go spend $140 on another table. And then maybe you'll spend $200 on the next table. Go to a little bit bigger event. Then you'll go to the, you know, state collegiate rodeo finals in Utah, and a table there or a sponsorship there is a little bit more expensive. But guess what? Now you know that these do so well, you're going to throw an after party with the collegiate athletes. You're going to throw a Bison King after party, and you know it's going to have, you know, everyone there who cares about this sport and the athletes in it, and they're going to be super receptive to Bison King because you're there supporting the thing with them, just in a different capacity.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. I mean, Lee, let me do this. Here's another plug. If you are a business that has been around for 10 years and you've gotten really good at what you're doing, don't be afraid to go and hire a company like Spark Media House that has the expertise and experience. You know, there's a lot of business owners that they look at like, oh, well, I have to pay, you know, a $6,000 monthly retainer. I have no idea what you charge, but I'm just throwing a number out there to have this agency do that. And they're like, I don't want to spend the money on that. Like, things are fine. Growth is good. Like I've heard this before where like, I don't want to spend that money. And it's like, how much would it cost you to hire like a full term? I have a marketing person. Well, you might have a marketing person, but they're still wet behind the ears. And there's so many marketing people that businesses employ that don't really know marketing. And so to go and hire an agency that has the expertise that can dig into and help you really fulfill your goal, I think is huge, because the return, hiring an employee, paying their insurance, like dealing with, do they show up for work? Do they not show up for work?
Yeah.
Like you have somebody that is dedicated to helping you build your brand and increasing your sales. That the value is there. It's just interesting to see businesses not be willing to like kind of like turn the keys over to the marketing engine to certain businesses or individuals.
And truth be told, like we do our worst work when we don't have a good relationship with the founder and when we don't have access to analytics. Like there are some companies that we've worked with in the past where they just give us access to the things that they think we just are bare minimum we need access to. But it's like really to do our best work, we need to almost be like your partner. We need to have a great relationship, personal and professional. Like I get sent memes on Instagram from one of my clients. Like he just sends me funny memes, like because we have that sort of like personal relationship now, while still maintaining a professional relationship. And so it's like you have to have a partnership with that person, and they should be as invested in your outfit, whatever it is, jerky, clothes, whatever, construction company, as you are in your own thing. So like vet some people and understand like, hey, if I bring you on, what does that look like? What do you need access to? What are you gonna do in the first 30 days? Do you need access to analytics? And don't be afraid to give them that stuff, because another hard thing, for you business owners out there, the other hard thing that we have is when we don't get cooperation or truthful cooperation, because I've been lied to before. Like a founder has legitimately lied to me about how profitable their product is, because I get it. Sometimes you're really proud of the thing that you've made.
It's ego.
But you don't want to admit that you've made it so poorly. Or like, let's say it's a really high quality product, but you're paying 90% in cost of goods sold. This is literally a true story. And so we're crushing it on Meta ads. We're like, dude, look at this. This is great. These are great numbers. And he's like, I'm losing money. And we're like, what do you mean you're losing money? And there's no way that you're losing money right now. And then he shares with us, hey, here's my actual cost of goods. And we're like, oh my gosh, this will never work. Like between what you pay us, what you're paying in ad spend, and what you're paying to just have the product made and shipped is not going to work. We have to dissolve this immediately, and you have to go back to the drawing board and either lower your cost of goods sold or figure something else out. So it's another part of it is actually being truthful with your partner, whether it's an agency, whether it's an employee, and they should be asking those things. What's your profit margin? What's your gross margin? And that way they can forecast things. They can, benchmark KPIs better. And like I said, it's all about data. Like at the end of the day, it's all about data. And truth be told, we're creative. We're technically a creative studio as well. We do a lot of good photo and video work, and we're super artistic. But if that art doesn't match the analytics, we have a term here. We call it analytical artistry. And if the art doesn't match the analytics, the art gets cut and the art gets changed, right? Photo and video is art. But we help
100%.
turn it into business assets through data. And yeah, so
what works, what doesn't.
when you're hiring those people, yeah, just ask those questions, vet some people, and if they're not asking you what your margins are, be concerned. If they're not, trying to figure out that sort of stuff, don't be like, why are you trying to learn this? What's your game here? Have them sign an NDA if you're scared, if you're a little bit unsure. But then, yeah, give them the information, because then they're going to say, hey, actually, you know what? We should not be thinking about doing meta ads. We should be thinking about doing this. Like, halt everything that we've been thinking about and let's do a 180.
Yeah, well, and to that point, the other thing is, like, and I'm sure you've experienced this, I've experienced this. It's like, hey, what's your marketing budget? Well, why don't you just put together a proposal? It's like, okay.
I don't know where you're at.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know. It depends, and that's the part where you have to build that trust to where they can like share like actual details with you, to where it's like, well, what's your LTV, and they're like, well, you're lied to, and then it's like, look, if you're not open with me, like I will do what you're asking me to do, but in 3 months you're going to be like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And like, you're going to want to cut ties.
Yep. And it's just,
and I've gotten to the point now where I'm at this, where when things like that happen, I'm like, you know what? Like, you do you. I wish you nothing but success, but this isn't going to work between the two of us.
And we've definitely, like, with that specific relationship example, like, we were like, hey, dude, we love your product. I really enjoy you as a person, but like with these numbers, we just can't help you. You're going to spend so much money with us over the next year, whatever that is per month. And you're going to be looking at your, P&L and going, what the heck? You guys suck. And it's like, well, yeah, we kind of can't help you if you're spending 90% of your MSRP on cost of goods sold,
Yeah.
So,
I think
just have to be a partnership.
And I think the other thing too is that some business owners, like, they have like a good product or service, and they don't know the answers to the questions. And I would rather them be like, I actually don't know what my LTV is. How would we figure it out? And then you go through and kind of workshop it. And it's like, I did that with the HVAC company. I mean, they're wildly successful. They make a ton of money, but I was like, you start digging into some of the numbers. It's like, well, what's your average sell? And they're like, well, it varies. And it's like, well, okay, well, let's dig into some of the, let's dig into the data. What's the average? But anyway, it goes on, and I could go into all sorts of frustrations that I have about working in this space on, like a marketing, advertising side. But Lee, as we wrap up here, is there any final like parting thoughts that you'd like to share?
Man, really the biggest one is, just as a business owner, get out there and continue to tell your, founding story, your company story, why your product is great. Like, silence will literally kill you. Whether you hire someone like me, or whether you do it yourself, or you hire your cousin's daughter to do your social media, start doing something, and then grow from there. But on the outdoor industry standpoint, I think we've got to get to a place where like, there's been some things happen this last year with certain companies, maybe potentially doing some fraudulent things. Like, I think we just have to bring back that level of like honor and value to the outdoor industry. I've definitely seen it in other outdoor companies, where there's just like, they just want to grow and be successful at any cost. And it's like, that's not why we started our hunting brands. That's not why we started our fishing brands. We started it out of passion. Let's like aggressively take back that passion And those who don't share the passion, let's push them out. that like, as hostile as that may seem, I think a lot of people, they just are here because they want to have fun. And if someone in the outdoor industry, whether it's a brand or a person within a certain company, is to the contrary of that, to the contrary of just wanting to go out, obtain their own meat, have fun, make memories, be with family, if they're out here to make money off of hunters and anglers, like, let's think about that for a second. And that's really what I want to leave people with, because that's what I'm passionate about, is the outdoor hunting and fishing industry specifically. And I think we just need kind of like a come to Jesus, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've definitely seen that. I mean, there's a Utah-based company that no longer exists that I don't know all the details, but it sounds like they did a bunch of SMBs, the type of businesses that you work with, wrong. And then even like on like the hunter side, there's individuals out there that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing just for the gram, if you will.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's I think it's a fun space to be in. I love what I'm doing. I get to meet so many fun brands
100%.
and different businesses that it's just,
And
I've built relationships that are going to last a lifetime.
And the people that you get to meet and the stories you get to hear, like let's say, like, let's go back to our events example. You're going to those events at the bow shop. You just get to meet so many cool local guys who are just like, either they're straight up killers, or they are well on their way to being straight up killers, and they're just like, just having a good time. And they might spend every extra penny they have on going hunting. And I just love meeting those guys and getting to share stories with them. And that's truly what it's about. And that's kind of my point, is like, let's bring some of that back, and let's do some more in-person events or whatever. And then let's let's have a really good time doing what we're doing, and let's do it with the utmost respect for the land, the animals, and our community members. Like, let's not disrespect our brothers and sisters in the hunting community and go do some
For sure.
crazy stuff.
Couldn't agree more. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for joining us on this show. Hopefully you guys have been able to pull some, I mean, I think there's been a ton of value that's been shared by Lee, and I just wish you guys like all the success in the world. So Lee, I think I've said it before, but real quick, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you could hit me up on Instagram at Leegit Harrison, LEEGIT Harrison. Or you could email me. You can find my email on the website. It's sparkmediahouse.com. And yeah, those are the two best ways.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're in the hunting space, and like I said, like you've got a brand or an idea that you're building, and you want to reach out to somebody who's been in the industry and has been doing a lot, be sure to reach out to Lee. I'm going to do one more plug in case you fast forwarded over the beginning. If you've taken any value from this, A, please share this podcast with somebody. B, if you see it on social, like it, share it as a story, repost it, all the different things. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is. And one last time, please, if you're listening to this, hit that follow button or subscribe. And yeah, Lee, really appreciate your time. Stay safe and God bless.
Yeah, you too. And everyone buy a bag of Bison King jerky. So
BisonKing.com.
Yeah, there you go.
Be sure to enter promo code STEALTH for 10% off.
There you go. Sweet.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.